scaffolding, and it's scaffolding for you if you are kind of not feeling that comfortable with millions and billions and trillions. The way I like to think about things like scaffolding, so of course, scaffolding is the stuff that they put up on the buildings, right, to get up to the top floor. So instead of you hearing the word trillion and automatically knowing that's 12 zeros, you don't have to memorize that fact. What I recommend is that you start with something that you know what 1,000 is, and then you build up to a trillion, right? And so that's what this little scaffolding device is for. You start with 1,000, and then all you have to remember is 1,000, million, billion, trillion, and keep adding 3 zeros. Then you've got this whole little table for yourself, right? So that you're not trying to remember, oh, does billion have 9 or is it 6? So I think in math, the less you try to remember kind of random facts, and remember that in psychology and in the way the brain works, you can take in a short-term piece of information as a fact, but if you don't ever access that piece of information, or you access it very rarely, you will continue to not remember it, because it's just the pathways of the dendrites are not getting built in your brain. You have to build something over and over in order to remember it. So it's not a good strategy in math to try to have all of these little independent facts that you remember. You want to try to build structures that help you, like, okay, this is connected material. I understand what 1,000 is, and I can build it up to millions and billions and trillions from there. Okay, so the first technique, option one, like if I get a number like 6.7 billion and I want to write it out in its full form, my first option is change the decimal to a comma. So 6.7, I change to 6 comma 7. Then I start adding zeros. The first set, I add enough just to make a set of 3. And in this case, that means I'm going to add 2 more zeros. So I'm at 6 comma 700. Now I have to keep going because it's 6.7 billion. And I know that 6 comma 700 is just 6,000 something. So I need to keep going. And I keep adding sets of 3 until I get up to the billions place. So that's one way that you can translate numbers like 6.7 billion into the standard form. The other option is kind of more direct and mathematical, which is just take the 6.7 and multiply it by a billion, and boom, you got yourself your answer. Now, the downside of option 2 is that it requires your calculator. It requires you to understand how your calculator works and be able to type out the full number. But for a lot of people, that's a more kind of direct way to accomplish that. So I like to give you multiple options, remind you that in math, there's not one right way to do things, and there's always different ways we can arrive at the same place.